me, and let me invite Tony Allday to the podium to present COVID, the effects of COVID and how it has changed ICT for the better at Sacred Heart.
Thank you very much. Right, good afternoon everybody. Let me just get myself here. Right. I have to remember how to do this. It's a PowerPoint. I don't use PowerPoint much anymore. I have to just let you know. Yeah, I've come a long way today, just across the road. It took me ages to get here. So I'm going to talk about how COVID and the last sort of 15, 18 months have changed things, changed the way that I think the way we use computing, use ICT in Sacred Heart Primary, and I think it's all for the better. So when I was thinking about this, I thought, oh, it's a bit like that Dickens quote from Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, and it was pretty crap, really, most of the last year. But actually, when I reread this, I thought there was actually, there's some good bits, and I've actually taken from this a lot of good, and I personally think that myself and the teachers in my school have gained a lot out of this, as well as it being quite tough. They've gained a lot. So I'd like to focus on that line that it was on the spring of hope, because I think that now we are sort of seeing some light. We can't sort of go back, and that's part of my theme really. You can't go back. Got to keep going. So I'm just going to go over these what's happened in the last year. I'm going to talk in particular about what we've done with Chromebooks, Google Chrome and Google Workspace, a bit about ICT in education at the end, and I think sort of something about the curriculum. I just make it clear that I'm a massive fan of everything to do with Google, everything to do with Chromebooks, and I don't really talk a lot about Windows. My sort of application platform at the moment as well is Purple Mash from Too Simple, which is, we're in primary school. Okay, so very simple. A before, a during, and an after. And I'll just talk about the different where we've done things differently through over the last sort of 18 months. So if I start about a before COVID. Classes, I teach computing across the school. So from normally reception up to year 6, although this last year haven't done reception, it's been just year 1 up to year 6. Usually classes would come to the ICT suite. We've got a very nice ICT suite. It's not being used at the moment. Usually though it would be pupils coming in, 2 pupils to a device, mainly Windows operating system. We had sets of iPads, we had some Chromebooks already in use that could be taken to classrooms. We tried to keep things very, very simple. No individual account sign-ons. So Chrome has been the browser of choice for a good number of years in my school, but I kept it, and we sort of implemented Google Apps. But we've kept it very, very simple and had I tried to avoid passwords, used shared logins. Usual sort of key content, LGFL stuff, Purple Mash, Discovery, usual things that you'd use in primary school. And as I said, we activated Google applications, Google Apps as it was, in about 2015. But although we have, I don't know if you use the London Grid for Learning, you can activate all of your accounts through that. It was all built, but we never distributed individual accounts to children. They were all there, but we never distributed them. The reason being, in teaching, I try to keep things as simple as possible. Okay, so how did things change? Well, first of all, in March last year, when everything went into lockdown, first sort of period, a bit like a phony war. We sort of sent all the children home. They were like evacuated, and they went home with books, and they went home with photocopies, and they went home with online recommendations, and there was lots of stuff that you could point them to. We gave them logins to things like things that we already had access to. We gave them logins to all those things. We'd send them weekly updates on email. Then we moved to doing weekly video messages. Teachers would create wonderful video messages each week, and then we loaned out some of our devices. We had a stock of Chromebooks ourselves, but we thought, right, we better start buying some more. So we did. Then kids came back in sort of June, end of June. It's all a bit of a blur now. Then in the autumn, we thought to ourselves, well, we've got to be ready. We've got to be ready for when, if we have to send a bubble home. So we had already sort of rolled out Google Classroom to when all the children were at home. We sent them out access passwords, etc., their accounts, so that they could access it, and we started to use it in lockdown 1, but not really in anger. When they came back in the autumn, we started to really train them up and make sure that everyone was comfortable using apps and Google Classroom. And we actually tested remote learning as well. We would have teachers sitting in one room, actually teaching their classes in another room. So we'd put a whole set of devices into a classroom, and we would test it out to make sure it worked, to make sure teachers were comfortable with what they were doing, and to make sure the children understood what they could expect. So that was the autumn, where we were preparing for what we thought was going to happen, but we didn't know when. So when everyone went home just before Christmas, and then everything went into lockdown, we were able to just sort of, in January, we were able to just turn everything on. And we'd worked out what our remote offer was going to be. We'd worked out that we were going to try and deliver if it was Key Stage 2, they'd have 3 live lessons a day. Everyone had to log in the morning. Everyone had to be logging on for registration. They had to register at the end of the day as well. And all of our activities that we did were delivered via Google Classroom. We had a group of children key worker children who were coming into school. They were taught in the same way as the children who were at home. So the lessons that were delivered via Google Meet to children who were at home, the same lessons were delivered via Google Meet to the children in school. So we didn't differentiate at all in terms of who was getting what content. If you had a couple of children from your class, they were put into a key worker bubble, and that key worker bubble was located in one of our halls, and you had a Chromebook and you had headphones, and you were working on the same lessons as the children at home. We continued to innovate all the time. We looked at ways that we could build more simple sign-in options. We rolled out a new reading program and we continued to loan out equipment. And as the term went on, we brought in Chromebooks that we got from the DFE. So we kept any stock that we had, we loaned out, and we brought in the new stuff and had that ready in case we needed to loan out more, but we didn't. And then when it was all over, we brought back all the loaned equipment. What that's meant is that since lockdown, so since, what was it, half term in spring one, end of spring one, we were able to, we found ourselves with 3 full class sets of Chromebooks, managed Chromebooks, so they've all got Google licenses, and every child from year 1 to 6 has got a Google Workspace account. Every child from year 1 to 6 can log on to a Chromebook. I can go to a class now with a set of Chromebooks and every child will log in. That same thing, any of the class teachers can take a set of Chromebooks and they can put them in front of their class and their children will be able to log in. Single sign-on via Google or bookmarks is just incredibly powerful. It lets us go from one, you log into Google and then you can log into multiple different services. Keep mentioning Purple Mash, Espresso, we use Reading Eggs, Times Tables, Rockstars, My Maths. Everyone has accounts for all of these. Children get one dedicated computing lesson a week, and then there's 1 or 2 other times in the week when these devices are in the class again. We've gone from when a child would come to a computing suite and be sharing a computer once a week to they've got a desktop device with access to multiple applications 2 or 3 times a week. It's a massive change, And a big focus has been on trying to make it as simple as possible for children to log in. Even down to the fact that in year 1, children even get given back the same device that they would use every time, and they know that all they've got to do is put their password in. And these are all things that, to be fair, have come about as a result of, I think Google have been really, really clever in all of this, in making things easy. Even now this week, I switched on for year 6s, CS First, which is the Google Scratch sort of tie-up, and there you can just go from you're logged into Google Classroom, and then that classroom is copied over into Scratch, which again, it's simple access and individual accounts. So the benefits of all this is that you can, for the first time, I think, I'm able to. For each individual child, I can say, well, they did that on that day, here's the evidence, and if you want to look in Google Classroom, you can look at it there. If you want to look at it in Purple Mash, you can look at it there. And I can track what they're doing actually within the applications, which is, it's just very, very powerful. And I just don't think that, and I've said this to the head teacher, the senior leadership, we can't go back. We've got to keep the momentum going because we have done so much. So much has sort of come available. And why? Why do we need to keep doing it? Because if you read every day, there's got to be, everyone's saying there's got to be a change in education. We need to harness more technology in education. We're heading towards a digital skills shortage. I think that we have to keep providing children with access to education, and I think it's important not just that there is a potential skills shortage, but at the moment in secondary there's just I think fewer people are taking GCSEs in IT or IT related subjects.